The politician who's making all the news is Mr. Farage, sitting opposite me now in the studio. I'll start by wishing you a Happy New Year,
Happy
Farage.
New Year.
Thank you for coming by. One question from me before we go to the first questioner. Neil, stay exactly where you are. We all know about the dispute that's been going on between you and Elon Musk. What would Donald Trump say?
Oh, I've been a friend of Donald Trump's for a decade. I've been very supportive of him. He's been very supportive of me. I can't see that changing for a moment. And interestingly, despite what Elon said when he woke up the other morning, that I was no good or whatever. I'm sure he's
not the man to lead the party.
He's not alone with that opinion, clearly. But, and then yesterday, he retweeted me twice with positive messages. So I don't know.
You catching up with him later this month?
Yes.
How long are you going over for the inauguration?
I'll be over for a good sort of 4 or 5 days. And of course, look, I have no desire to go to war with Elon Musk, and I'm not going to, and I haven't done. I'm a huge admirer of him. I think he's a heroic figure. I think the sort of tech changes that he's bringing to the world are incredible. I think buying Twitter actually has brought a lot of free speech back, even if some people don't like what's being said. Well, you know what? Tough. There is no way I'm going to fall out. But equally, Nick, I wasn't going to be moved. This Tommy Robinson character, who some see as a hero, and all right, he's talked about grooming gangs and other things, although he's hardly been on his own on that, has he? I mean, I was first being condemned in 2012 for daring to talk about it.
Anne Cryer was talking in 2002.
Yeah, no, she was. I mean, she is the
20 plus years.
She's the heroine of all of this.
Yeah.
As indeed, to be fair, Andrew Norfolk, who was writing for the Times.
Journalist.
And Sue Reid on the Mail. There were some very brave figures early on. But when figures like myself as party leaders dared pop their head over the parapet, we were smashed back down very, very quickly. Robinson's talked about this, but he has a criminal record, a list as long as your arm. Violence against women. I could go on, Nick. Right. And all I'm saying is, look, Mr. Robinson, do what the hell you like. We are totally separate from that. And I never wanted, and you know this, you've known me long enough to know, I've never wanted my parties to have anything to do with the BNP or extremism, and I never will.
Why have they attracted people then, Mr. Farage? Because in the past they have attracted that like.
Well, not when I've led parties, no. What I inherited...
I take you back to the last general election, which possibly you didn't have enough time.
No. I had no say over that whatsoever. I came in right at the last minute. There were people there that shouldn't have been there. That will never happen again.
All right, let's go to the calls. The first call does reflect Elon Musk. It's Neil in Nottingham. Neil, you're on the radio. Your question to Nigel Farage.
Good morning, Nigel.
Good morning.
Serious question here. I understand what you say about Elon Musk and the relationship, but how much weaker do you think reform will be in practice without the support of Elon Musk?
Do you mean financially, Neil, just to clarify?
No, I not financially. I don't think that's the core of the issue. I mean in terms of reform's popularity and I guess its increasing support.
Let's put that to Mr. Farage.
Okay, well, look, Neil, I think that Elon isn't just a hero figure to people who are ageing, such as myself. I think I'm looking at Nick too. I think to a younger generation, he really is a cult hero figure. I mean, I've had kids telling me, you know what, he's going to let us go to Mars. So not having Elon's support would damage us with that younger generation because he kind of makes us look cool. So I'm being frank about that. And I am confident that whatever has been said, we can mend.
You can build bridges with Elon Musk.
I really think we can. I really think we can. He said what he said.
How crucial is it that you do, Mr. Ferrari?
It's not crucial. Look, if I was to embrace, as it looks like I was being urged to do, the sort of violent, thuggish people like Robinson, that would do our party immense harm. And probably rightly so, actually. So the fact that I've stood up on a point of principle, even if in the short term it's to my detriment, Neil, in the long run, may even work in our favour. And look, of course I want his support. Of course I will talk to him in America in a few days' time. Of course I want to mend, any broken fences that might exist. I'm sure we can do it.
How crucial could Donald Trump be in mending the fences? Is he a fence mender?
Trump is a much more conciliatory character than people give him credit for. Don't forget, this is the guy who gave us the Abraham Accords in the Middle East. This is the guy that crossed the line into North Korea, a very brave thing for a US president to do. Trump is a great conciliator. And look, there's one other thing, Neil, I must say, and that is many of my American friends have seen one side of the Robinson story. He says he's in prison for exposing the grooming gangs. And they go, oh, my goodness me, this is dreadful. He's a political prisoner. Fact is, he's been in prison many times over the years, 3 times for contempt of court. I mean, once he almost brought down a trial
yes.
at which gang rapists
Yes.
were ultimately convicted.
It's important to remember that.
So I am actually on a campaign right now in America just to educate people as to who Tommy Robinson actually is.
Neil, thank you for your call. Sophie is in Manchester. You're through to Nigel Farage. Sophie, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for taking my call. So this is just a quick one. It's kind of around the topic that you're speaking about anyway. So considering, Nigel Farage, that you've spoken yourself about being attacked online and feeling unsafe, do you plan to condemn Elon Musk in any way about his comments attacking Labour's Jess Phillips?
If he was inciting violence, then that would be going beyond the line at which free speech is acceptable. Now,
using language such as rape, genocide, apologist, the ice is pretty thin, Nigel Farage.
It's very, very strong language, and it offends many, but then free speech should be able to offend many. And Sophie, I do not believe...
So it's okay to cause offence, to knowingly cause offence?
Of course. That's what free speech... Nick, that is what free speech is. We should be allowed. You should be allowed. I should be allowed to say things that others find offensive. The presenter on after you says many things that people find offensive. Right. But hey, I wouldn't... I might not like what he says, but I wouldn't want him shut down.
Right. But when you meet with Mr. Musk, what would you say, to pick up on Sophie's point, using language such as rape, genocide, apologist for Jess Phillips? You don't concur with that, do you?
I don't concur with it, although what I will say is the extent of the cover-up over the mass rape scandal that we now learn has affected 50 different towns in this country, not the 6 that the so-called inquiry was looking at. Incidentally, Rotherham mentioned only once in the whole of that inquiry.
485 pages.
So, Sophie, I would say this to you. Nearly all of my friends in America have seen these reports, read some of the transcripts from court online over the course of the Christmas-New Year period. They are horrified. They cannot believe this has happened in the United Kingdom, and that perhaps explains some of the strong language. You may find it offensive. I don't think it goes beyond the line.
All right. Sophie, thank you. You've mentioned Tommy Robinson a couple of times, Mr. Farage. Are Robinson supporters welcome in Reform UK?
Well, people who sympathise with the fact that he wants to fight against grooming gangs, yes. But if you genuinely think that this guy is a hero figure in every way, given his record, given some of the things, not just that he's said that he's done, then maybe we're not quite right for you. I understand a lot of people sympathise. Nick, a lot of people sympathise with what he's had to say about what's going on in British towns and cities. And he's grown up himself in Luton, where there have been a lot of community problems. So I understand that. Sympathy, yes. But if you're an outright guy thinking this should be the next Prime Minister, then clearly Reform's not for you.
How concerned are you that those people might join Reform, though? Because you mentioned in the past people have been attracted to parties in which you've been involved with views you say you oppose.
Can I be very clear?
I hope you would.
The last time Tommy Robinson stood for elected office, he got 2.2%. All right? I'm leading a party. We've got ambitions to upset the apple cart in British politics in a way that's not been seen for over 100 years. Him and his close advocates can do what the hell they like. We're going to do what we do without them.
Graham's in Bushy. Graham, you're through to Nigel Farage. Go ahead.
Morning, both of you.
Morning.
Nigel, with the number of people joining Reform, what checks are being made to establish that they haven't been members of the BNP, British First, or other far-right organisations, or haven't made any racist comments on any social media platforms?
Well, you could apply that same principle to the Labour and Conservative parties. It's just that no one's actually joining them, I suppose, at the moment. We ask people, we make perfectly clear to people that if they have those past associations, they are not welcome.
How would you make that plain?
Well, it's there on our website. It's very, very clear. We don't want.
You say we don't want you if you've been in the BNP.
Absolutely. And by the way, I said that in UKIP as well. I've been saying that all my.
But they did get
career.
through. You recall at the last general election, you and I had a couple of exchanges.
No, because I wasn't leader then. All right, I wasn't leader then, and if I'd known about any of them, they wouldn't have stood. Let's be clear. Reform was a very, very small start-up party. It didn't have the resource. So, Graham, the answer is we do have to rely, to a certain extent, on people's honesty. And will one or two people lie to us? I expect they will. But all I can tell you is, having sampled just in the street some of those who've joined us recently, they're a good bunch of people. And you know what? They're really, really concerned about the direction our country's going in. Economic and societal decline. They don't believe the current political class on the two front benches can turn this around, and they're optimistic that we can.
I want to move on, but we just need to come back briefly, if we could, to the scandal of grooming gangs. The Prime Minister seeming to say that any politician, or indeed anyone who seemed to support the idea of a public inquiry, was effectively getting on the bandwagon of being a right-winger. Nigel Farage, how do you respond to that?
I get a bit bored with this far-right label. I mean, the BBC use it about virtually every country in the world these days. I mean, I've no doubt Canada very soon will go far-right, and Italy's gone far-right. And look, I honestly believe that through the police, through social services, through the last days of the Labour government, through the entirety of the last Conservative government, there has been a concerted attempt to play this down for fear of what it might do, for fear of being called racist. The irony is that the attacks themselves were racist. This was anti-white female racism. Of that I have no doubt. And let me say this, Nick. If the government will not hold a full public inquiry, and how interesting that the Times editorial today has come out strongly in support of it, I'll say this to you now. If they won't do it, we at Reform will do it. I will have no difficulty in raising the money to do this whatsoever. We'll appoint independent ex-judges and experts, and we will have this out in public. And I hope, Sir Keir...
Will you have the statutory powers that will be granted to you through a public inquiry?
No, I won't have the statutory powers, but I tell you what, I think this would garner such massive public support that anybody that was asked to appear that didn't appear would look terrible.
What would your deadline be for the government to take action?
Well, I think we've probably got a few weeks, but no more than that. And I think there is now overwhelming demand for us to know the full, unvarnished truth, however horrid it may be.
So today is the January the 7th. You'll give them to the end of January?
Effectively, yes. And Nick, I promise you, I can raise the money for it today. Not from Elon Musk either. I can raise the money for it today, and we can do this. And I mean it. And I think that the government will know that when I say something, I mean it.